There is little doubt that this country is under the spotlight today. It's one of the most beautiful places in Eastern Europe. With a distinct culture and cities full of captivating history, Ukraine is home to glorious cathedrals, Orthodox churches, ancient castles, lush forested hills, and lovely Black Sea beaches that have enamored the elite, as well as the working class, for hundreds of years. Its capital, Kyiv, was once the seat of power of the Kievan Rus, the state that existed where modern-day Russia, Ukraine, and Belarus trace their roots. It was ruled by the Rurik dynasty for over 700 years, from Rurik's founding in 862. And believe it or not, you couldn't even buy AirPods back then, so let that sink in, to the death of Ivan the Terrible of Russia in 1584. And this historic significance might have played a role in being such a coveted land today. However, the war has devastated almost every Ukrainian city, and cultural treasures that were once the toast of the continent have been left in ruin. And as the situation worsens every single day, let's take this opportunity to look back at the Ukraine that was, and why conflicts like this are a lose-lose for humanity. Because in war, nothing is held sacred. Welcome to Primo Traveller. And on today's 10 Prime Picks, let's explore what were once the best places to visit in Ukraine. Be sure to watch till the end, because for the sake of the future, you don't want to miss our top 3 spots. Also, I gotta say right now, my Ukrainian is not the best, so I apologize in advance for anything that might be a little off. Anyway, let's dive into the list. Let's talk about this. Number 10. Zaporizhzhia. Let's begin with a beautiful and historic city located along the Dnieper River, Zaporizhzhia. First of all, it's an industrial city that arose thanks to the Dnieper hydroelectric dam, which made this section of the river navigable for the first time and powered the city's new heavy industry. But at the heart of it all, Zaporizhzhia's fame comes from the Zaporizhian Cossacks, autonomous warriors who lived by the Dnieper Rapids from the 16th to the 18th centuries, out of the control of the Ottoman Empire and Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth. These Cossacks are considered the soul of Ukrainian national identity, and they made a home on the island of Kortistia. Named one of the 7 wonders of Ukraine, it is here that they established a stich, a wooden fortress settlement. Also where they wrote their notorious reply to the ultimatum of Sultan Mehmed IV of the Ottoman Empire. Well, descent seems to go way back for them. Though since destroyed, the fortified wooden village has been reconstructed as an open-air museum. Completed in the 80s, it faithfully recreated the siege from the 1500s. And the village's wooden huts and halls feature exhibits on various themes from across 5,000 years of Kortistian history. The city also features truly fascinating museums that display weapons and armor from the Stone Age to the Second World War, as well as well-loved museums that showcase classic Ukrainian art pieces and highlights the country's rich culture. Zaporizhzhia is also home to the Zaporizhian oak, a recently named Ukraine's national tree, and is believed to date back more than 700 years. The oak is 36 meters high and has a few branches that still produce leaves, though the parts of the tree that have died are now held up only by cables. Somehow foreboding, as the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant is one of the critical facilities captured by the invasion force during the early stage of the war. Number 9. Bukovel. Let's follow up that site with a breathtaking wintertime destination, Bukovel, the largest ski resort in Eastern Europe. Surrounded by 3 mountains, including the highest peaks of the Carpathians, the views from this luxury alpine ski resort are purely majestic. It offers white-capped adventures for skiers of all ages, as it caters to all skill levels with over 50 kilometers of groomed pistes and playgrounds. There's even a ski school where you can learn and practice some new tricks. Number 8. Chernobyl. One of the oldest cities in Ukraine, Chernobyl was regarded as the second most important Ukrainian center after Kyiv, way back in 907 AD. So as you'd expect, it has beautiful medieval architecture dotting the city, particularly Catherine's Church with its golden cupolas, and the 11th century 5-domed Transfiguration Cathedral. It is also home to some famous Ukrainian brews, like CHERNOBYL, a refreshing drink you could have enjoyed after visiting the two ancient cave monasteries on the outskirts of the city, or after strolling around the 18th century Kashanivka Palace, with its beautiful neoclassical architecture, manicured gardens, and lake. Number 7. Uman. A laid-back place between the popular cities of Odessa and Kyiv, Uman is a historic city that is a popular pilgrimage site for Hasidic Jews. Enjoy relaxing views of splendid gardens at its various parks that are ideal for leisurely afternoon strolls. And as a major center for gardening research, you could have signed up for a tree tour. Number 6. Chernobyle. At the foot of the Carpathian Mountains in western Ukraine is a city lovingly dubbed Little Vienna, thanks to Byzantine and Romanesque architecture that owes its heritage to being a part of the Austro-Hungarian Empire before, giving the feel of a whole other country. Chernobyle dates back to the Neolithic era and boasts of cobbled streets filled with laid-back cafes, Baroque buildings, bookshops, and parks. But perhaps its most famous structure is an impressive palace that is designated as a UNESCO World Heritage Site and is now home to the National University, one of the largest universities in Ukraine. Let's get into number 5. KAMIANETS-PODILSKYI. KAMIANETS-PODILSKYI is a fairy tale city that lies in western Ukraine, most famous for one of the most picturesque fortresses in Eastern Europe. Towering over the Smotrich River, it is perhaps one of the most enduring symbols of resilience that Ukrainians can look up to nowadays. The impregnable KAMIANETS-PODILSKYI fortress has only been taken twice during its 800-year history. One could also walk the cobbled streets of its well-preserved medieval old town, lined with pastel-colored houses, or take a spectacular hot air balloon ride that glides across the waterfalls of the Smotrysky Canyon. Number 4. Chernobyl. An adventure like no other. The Chernobyl exclusion zone, now an eerie ghost town, was once home to a bustling city. But after one of the world's worst nuclear disasters, it was abandoned overnight. A tour of the town of Pripyat gives you a glimpse at a time capsule as you peek at Ukrainian life in the 80s, with buildings that have now been reclaimed by nature. And it's also been declared uninhabitable throughout the next 20,000 years. So yeah, you're probably not going to go there to go house hunting. See what's at stake with all of this? Again, this is why none of this can be taken lightly. Anyway, let's move on to number 3. Odessa. One of the war's central areas of conflict, Odessa was once captured by the Greeks, then by the Ottomans, and finally today by the Russians. Once the ultimate summer holiday destination, the Pearl of the Black Sea used to be a picturesque getaway, where a tourist could have enjoyed a quiet stroll along the seaside promenade or lounge on its sandy beaches. To access that, one could take a pleasurable walk down the mighty and very historic stairway that leads from the center of the town to the beachfront, the famous Potemkin Steps. There are also beautiful parks and numerous theaters in the city, boasting of grand architecture, as well as underground catacombs that span thousands of kilometers beneath the city. Spooky. Now, no one knows what fate has in store for this beautiful city at the center of this madness. Number 2. Lviv. The largest city in western Ukraine has a historic center that is full of monuments, museums, and age-old buildings, with archaeological findings dating back to the 5th century. Regarded as one of Ukraine's most popular cultural hubs, it is a UNESCO World Heritage Site, and it features the Lviv National Art Gallery, home to over 50,000 works of art that have withstood the test of time. The city's numerous opera and ballet houses also used to showcase opulent performances, where some of Ukraine's best held court. Imagine all of these architectural treasures pummeled day by day, hanging by a thread. And at number 1, Kyiv. Dating back to 482 AD, Kyiv is one of the oldest cities in Europe, a hub in the development of both the medieval East Slavic civilization and the Ukrainian nation today. It features Soviet architecture, monasteries, golden domed churches, and beautiful streets. It boasts of UNESCO World Heritage Sites, the architectural monument of the Kievan Rus, the St. Sophia Cathedral, which possesses the biggest preserved collection of mosaics and frescoes of the early 11th century, and the Kyiv Monastery of the Caves, a monastic complex founded by St. Anthony and St. Theodosius, one of the oldest and most important monasteries in Ukraine. It is essentially a complex split into two parts, one above ground and one below. The labyrinth of underground caves and catacombs is full of mummified monks, religious relics, and icons. Above ground are impressive churches, ruins, and a fascinating micro-museum where microscopes are needed to view the exhibit pieces. Kyiv also features one of the largest open-air museums in Europe, the Museum of Folk Architecture and Ethnography, as well as a steep cobbled street lined with Art Nouveau-style houses with gargoyles, the Androvitsky descent, along with hundreds of others endangered by the war. These are but 10 of the best places in Ukraine before the war, and there are many more cultural reasons aside from the human cost why the war can never be justified. But ideologies aside, check out this other video from Primo Traveller, and don't forget to subscribe for more of our 10 prime picks. And let Primo Traveller be your guide to premier destinations around the world.